What's going on, my broskiis? My name is Toadskii, back again, here to bring you guys yet another One Piece Treasure Cruise video. And today, you know, there's really not a lot of content going on Treasure Cruise right now. It's kind of like that really dead period where it's like after PKA, but then like before Treasure Map, there's like a week of basically nothing where they kind of think that, oh, you know, it's the finals, it's exhibition, you know, people, they're gonna spend all their gems and their time invested into Pirate Rumble, which we don't really need to put anything in the game during this period. I would argue this is the worst period in the game, because no one really wants to spend a ton of gems just grinding Pirate Rumble for a week straight. Like, no one really cares about this. So I would love for there to be a little bit of a change, give us something new and refreshing to do in this like week period before Treasure Map, because there's basically nothing. But let's just have a look at what we got here, right? So the new Zoro and Brook came out in Pirate Rumble. Whenever they introduce a new Rumble Rare Recruit, they introduce these new challenge difficulty fights where they usually bring like a bunch of legends on a team with the new Rumble unit. Just showing you guys some synergies between the new Rumble Rare Recruit and some Sugofest exclusives you can build teams with. And to be honest, this one is terrible. Like, this one is really, really easy to get through. The front line is just not it. I don't know why V2 Odin wasn't on the team instead of Odin and Toki. I don't know why they didn't decide to do that, but look, it is what it is. It's I don't know, it's weird. It's a weird team, but I've got 5 different teams in this video to showcase against this one. This is the first team that I tried, which was my generic Free Spirit team. I originally was going to try Gear 5. I didn't try it with Gear 5, so I assume it would probably work, but I decided to go with Luffy and Yamato instead, because that's the one problem, I guess, with the Free Spirit team, is offensively, it's not great, because you're only really relying on damage from Sanji and Luffy Yamato to really give you that big damage push. So, you know, you could technically take Nami Karina out, put, you know, one of the other characters in, like Lauren Kid, for example, potentially. I don't know. There's a couple different units you could use. Tried this one first, worked really well, and as you guys are going to see throughout this video and the teams that we opt to use, like, we kind of just tear through this content. And even though this team only really has big damage from Luffy, Yamato, and Sanji, we still get through it in decent time, in my opinion, honestly. For a challenge difficulty content, you see Luffy Yamato going crazy, knocking out the entire front line there, which is wild. So I'll leave you guys with this clip. We'll pick things up with the second team that I have for you guys in this video. Moving on to the secondary team, this is my generic side team that I use a lot of the time when I'm coming up against, you know, a lot of powerhouse and driven characters, because Wano Law exists. And this team was the best team performing out of all of the teams that you will see in today's video. This team absolutely tore through this squad. Now, I understand what they're trying to do. They got Zoro, who is a pretty big damage dealer. They got Kizaru, which can provide some support. They've got Odin Toki, which can, you know, action bind, and I would argue that it's not a great choice, honestly. Momo, I think, is a terrible Rumble unit. Some people may disagree with that, but from my experience, I've found Momo to be severely underwhelming, and I would rather use so many other legends over him in Rumble. It is what it is. And then Shanks, look at Shanks right here. He goes crazy. He just knocks out the entire front line by himself. Remember, Shanks only gets the big buffs when you've got one of his crewmates on your team, which is why I have the Yasop, which does nothing on the crew, but he provides Shanks with additional special CT, so he can launch his special more. And when Shanks uses his special in the last 50 seconds, it does like a secondary hit, which is like, it's just massive damage. Gear 5 big damage, Odin big damage, Wano Law for support, and then you got the Rebecca Toy Soldier, who's actually a really good character in this fight, because they're basically all slashers, and Rebecca Toy Soldier can debuff them severely. So pretty good options, honestly. Side team was crazy in this fight. Now, this is my current favorite team to use in Rumble right now, the Quick Slasher Team, and I was a bit apprehensive as to whether or not this team was going to be able to do it, but in my head I felt like if this team can beat it, then I know a couple other teams I want to try out that could also give this team a run for its money. And it just goes to show, like, when you see so many teams be able to beat this one challenge, you know it's an easy one. Whereas you go to some of the other challenges, and some of them, honestly, you really need specific setups in order to get through them. But I'm just using generic teams that I haven't even changed at all to go up against this fight, and we get through it relatively comfortably. I will admit, I think this is the one that was the least viable, I guess, for going up against this one. Normally, I wouldn't use this against it, but because there's no repercussions for losing in this quest, I thought, why not? Let's go ahead and give it a shot. Normally, I do usually use EGGHEAD ZORO on the front line instead of Momonosuke, or I have tried out using versus Akainu, so you can run like a really good like mono quick team up against a strength squad. But in this instance, I decided to go ahead and switch it up for Momo because I felt like the damage through defense was going to be really good, especially because they do have Momo on their team, which does provide shielding, which can be annoying. Crazy to see Smoothie get a double knockout with her special. That doesn't happen very often. And Shiryu doesn't really provide much, but he does give some special CT, I guess. But, you know, Shiryu, he's really, really good when your opponent has a couple of strength units on there. And Cracker, again, doesn't really do a hell of a lot, but, you know, these increased special CT and the fact that you have Roger and Odin that continuously launch these specials over and over again, charging your special CT of your quick slasher units, you can do some crazy good damage. And especially if you can get Momo to launch first and then Roger Odin to charge Momo back, if you can double launch Momo really quickly back to back, it's a wrap. Momo's special is incredible in Rumble. Such a good character. It's crazy because when Momo debuted, we all thought he was absolutely garbage, but because of Roger Odin in the recent New Year's batch, you know, it's basically made Momo a lot better than what he actually was. And then you look at Hiyori, the other character that debuted with Momo, and then, like, no one's really using Hiyori all that much, which is a little disappointing, but Momo's good either way. That's all I really wanted to say about that. But you do see at this point that I'm getting a couple knockouts, and it's getting to a really scary period here, and I was deciding, you know, whether we're going to win or not. We do see groggy monsters here. They go kind of crazy, popping off a couple hits. Doesn't get any knockouts though, you know, more investments would definitely be nice. And then we get the Momo special, which kind of whiffs on that first hit, which kind of sucks. Does knock out the Shanks though, which is pretty good for us. Whitebeard just missing his special there. Shiryu not getting his yet. Smoothie not yet. So we're going to have to tank another wave of specials coming up here. But it is 6v2, so we're probably going to win at this point. And we get the boom, the knockout, and then we can go ahead and take down the Zoro. So we'll go ahead and move on to the next one. So when I saw that quick slasher teams were able to actually get the job done, I decided let's go ahead and just try this shooter team. I was testing out this team. I don't think I've made a video on this team exactly on my channel yet, but I thought, you know, let's just see how it goes, because I felt like through testing the last couple of teams you guys have seen in this video, my opponent doesn't have a lot of defense. And because of that, I felt like shooters would actually have a pretty decent shot. If your opponent doesn't have a lot of defense, shooters are going to be pretty good in a lot of instances, because they've got like really solid specials that do like not high multipliers, but they hit a lot of times. And if the opponent doesn't have a lot of defense, then that could actually help you out. The problem is for shooters is they don't have massive damage dealers. The biggest damage dealers that they have is this ace that you're seeing on the team, and the Kizaru and Fuji do actually go kind of ham. And using the tandem of the Rumble Usopp and Legend Uta, we can charge our specials incredibly quickly. Even though we don't have a lot of special CT on our crew, those two characters being able to launch their specials on relatively low special CT can charge our specials back so that we can actually use our ace and our Kizaru Fuji as much as we possibly can. Now, Ein is not a character I'm really sure whether or not I want to try and use in a shooter team normally, but you know, then again, you could switch that character out for a multitude of different units. You could put even like V2 Kuzan, for example. Even though he's not like a shooter boosting character, he doesn't really boost the whole squad. That unit, that special's super, super good. You could put Frankie, who's a decent defensive option. There are options for shooters. You could put Ben Beckman and Lucky Root, which I think is also a pretty valid call. You could put Usopp and Yasop. Then again, if you do that, you have to take off the Rumble Usopp, so that's a real problem. I don't like the fact that Rumble Usopp is an Usopp character, because his special's actually good, but the fact that it's an Usopp character really hurts, honestly. But you see that we are running a little low on HP for some of these key characters here. Kizaru Fuji hasn't really been touched a whole lot, so he's going to be able to launch his special again, and that's going to be huge because he does actually do a hell of a lot of damage. And then the support from Uta and Usopp have been massive in this team. On the back line, we do actually have Rebecca Toy Soldier, not a shooter boosting character, but that character is a shooter. And once again, we've already talked about Rebecca Toy Soldier are good in this fight because of their effects to nerf the defense of slasher focused characters, which essentially is the whole team. So it actually works out pretty well. And then we got to show a little bit of love to Exchange Ace because it took a hell of a lot of investment to get him to level 150 in Limit Break expansion, so I'm going to try and use him. And we're going to be using this Striker team, and this Striker team worked incredibly well. I was really surprised at how little damage we took from the opponents here. Like, I don't know what was going on, but defensively, we ate up all the hits from the opponent. Now, look, I wasn't really paying attention when I was recording this particular clip. Maybe we just knocked out key characters so they weren't able to launch their offensively focused specials. I know that Odin and Toki was able to get a pretty good hit on us to action bind some of our key offensive characters, but luckily for us, it didn't matter a hell of a lot. Kawamatsu is a pretty interesting call for my opponent here because of the increased special charge, but Roger and Odin, we already know what they're capable of doing. It actually knocked out the Zoro, and Momonosuke actually survived the hit, which is wild. Not too many characters survive hits from Roger and Odin. I think the shield may have helped him in that instance there, but you do see that the action bind coming in, knocking out the key characters for their specials of Ace and Luffy Yamato, so that's kind of annoying. We do have Tezora and Kanjuro to go, who both do fixed damage specials. Tezora is also a good option too because he does provide a bit of defense for our crew too, increased special CT with his rumble ability, just a solid unit overall. Like, Tezora is never a bad unit to use in a rumble team, and even like Kanjuro, like, he's not great, he does some fixed damage, he's got a good rumble ability for strikers, which is the main reason why people would use him, but you know, you're just kind of there because of his rumble ability, and he does have fixed damage, which I guess is okay. You see Luffy Yamato being able to launch, and especially when it's less than 50 seconds, Luffy Yamato gonna go crazy. You see Ace pop it in with the special, getting some characters very, very low in HP and knocking out the Kawamatsu. So now we've got all characters left on the field for my opponent, and eventually we can whittle them down. And if you get a second Roger Whitebeard special off, 99% of the time you just automatically win at that point. If your opponent hasn't been able to knock him out, Roger Odin is just too big of a character in Rumble to deal with. That's going to wrap it up for me though. Let me know your thoughts and opinions about this one, and leave your teams that you've used down below in the comment section so other people can go ahead and kill it and get those free goodies, rainbow gems, rumble scrolls, all the good stuff. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to go ahead and leave a like, and if you want to stay up to date with all the content I post, including more One Piece Treasure Cruise content, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. On that, guys, I'll see you guys within the next video.